Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Manisha Nanda from the Department of Biotechnology, DABNS, Dehradun. Today, I'll be starting a talk on autoimmunity and autoimmune diseases, and in the first part, I'll be introducing you to autoimmunity and I will be talking about the various mechanisms of self-tolerance. Now, we all know that the fundamental function of our immune system is to recognize between the self and the non-self. But sometimes our immune system starts recognizing some of our self proteins and self antigens also as non-self due to various reasons that leads to the generation of autoimmunity. Autoimmunity, as the name describes, can be defined as the failure of an organism in recognizing its own constituent parts as non-self, which allows an immune response against its own cells and tissues. And any disease that results from such an aberrant immune response is termed as an autoimmune disorder. Now, this concept of autoimmunity was first introduced by the Nobel laureate Paul Ehrlich, and he described it as horror autotoxicus. He also said that the immune response generated against autoimmunity can be either humoral or self-mediated. Now, in autoimmunity, we normally define two terms. One is called the auto or the self-antigens, which are the antigens that presents one's own cells, or autoantibodies, that is, the antibodies which are produced against the self-antigens. Now, these are always produced by your altered cells. Okay. Now, autoantigen means the antigen of the protein is actually normally your body's own protein, but this is being recognized as a non-self protein or a foreign protein by your immune system. So that is why it is called as auto or self-antigen, and since the antibodies are being produced against one of your own or self-antigens, hence they are termed as autoantibodies. Now, there are various mechanisms of self-tolerance. First of all, you should understand what is self-tolerance. Now, self-tolerance means in the embryonic stage, when our immune system is developing, in that phase only, it is trained to differentiate between our own self-antigens and the foreign or the non-self antigens. So, we'll talk of the various mechanisms which are developed naturally in our bodies through our immune system to recognize and tolerate our own antigens, and this is called self-tolerance. Now, one mechanism which is the most popular is the clonal deletion theory. It says that the clones of lymphocytes which act against antigens, rather self-antigens, are deleted. Now, during the embryonic development only, various lymphocytes are already developed against different foreign pathogens or foreign antigens which our body can encounter during our lifetime. So during that period only, the body is trained to differentiate between self and non-self, and in that case, if any lymphocyte is generated that can act against our self-antigens, is deleted through clonal deletion. Then the second is inactivation of developing lymphocytes. So our immune system becomes self-tolerant. There is no activation of immunity against self-antigens, as specific lymphocytes are either deleted or inactivated. This concept is called clonal inactivation. Here, if by any chance also any lymphocyte reaches for maturation or for activation to the specified organs, there also first it is checked that whether it can destroy any of the self antigens. If it is found so, it is not allowed to get activated or differentiated further. Then third comes immunological ignorance. It says that very few self protein contain peptides that are presented by a given MHC molecule at a level which is sufficient for T cell activation. Now it is always said that during the embryonic stage only our self proteins are ignored and are not very well presented or can be presented by MHC molecules, so that any complication of developing immunity to our self antigens is ignored or is deleted. Next comes suppressor or T-regulatory cells mediate active suppression of autoreactive cells. Now it means that the suppressor or the regulatory T cells, as you know, they mediate or coordinate the functions of other cells of the immune system, and they may suppress any cell that is capable of destroying the self antigens. So suppressor by regulatory T cells is another very strong mechanism to oppose autoimmunity. Now at last comes apoptosis or programmed cell death, which says that any autoreactive B cell following secondary encounter with the CD4 T cells is destroyed through fast mediated programmed cell death, and thus is not allowed to circulate in our body or develop or multiply. Thank you.